The Seattle Seahawks put up 35 points against the Dallas Cowboys, one of the best defensive teams in the NFL, behind 3 touchdown catches by DK Metcalf and a great performance by Geno Smith. And then the Seahawks defense completely blew it. Also, it's your fault, Geno Smith, for those last 2 drives he should have completed. So the Dallas Cowboys just defeated the Seattle Seahawks 41-35, and at least when it was going on, it looked like the Seahawks were going to run away with this game with their dominant offensive performance, 35 points. And you would think that 35 points guarantees you a victory. But thanks to our defense that just did not play when it mattered the most, or when they were given like opportunities, especially with a big scoring window, the defense still messed it up. But as much as the defense was an absolute disappointment in this game, I'm still going to have to put it on Geno Smith, because those last 2 drives, he really should have gotten at least something to at least get into field goal range. But it did not happen. And as much as Geno Smith, yes, he had a really good game. Yes, he doesn't have a good offensive line. Yes, the defense just coughs it up all the time. There are times where you just have to step up. Like, do you see Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers throwing the defense under the bus? No, they work with what they have, and they still try to get it done. But tired of all these excuses for Geno. They're saying, well, Geno didn't give up 35 points. Geno didn't do this. Geno didn't have this. It gets to a point where you're just making excuses. And yes, I agree. The Seahawks defense was absolutely a joke, led by Tariq Woolen with so many penalties, and he just could not contain CeeDee Lamb, which is why I think that they should have put Witherspoon on him. I don't think putting in Witherspoon away from CeeDee Lamb was a good idea, because at least you need a physical guy on defense. So bottom line, I'm saying that defense was terrible. Offensive line was terrible. Geno Smith can't finish the games. Like, I can't make the excuses, because things are going to be more remembered for Geno not completing the games more than the defense was terrible. C-Films, take me to it.
So I think our biggest problem right now is our defense and stuff. And Geno can move the ball. Think about both those drives at the end of the game that he had, the opportunities. He got to the 45-yard line of his own thing. He was only 10 yards, maybe 10 yards off or 5 yards off of being in field goal range. So he had opportunity to basically get there. One of those passes, could you blame it on Geno, or do you blame it more on Tyler Lockett?
The drop pass that no one seems to be talking about, including me. I mean, yeah, that really did not help, and it was a pretty wide open pass. Although I will say the angling of that pass was not that fantastic. And yes, because the offensive line's terrible, but even then, you still need a leader like Geno Smith. Still has to at least lead the team, still emotionally get them all fired up, to at least motivate them to protect him. But the thing is, you can't just put it all on one pass. You can't put it all in just one pass. So many different factors. Too many penalties in this game. Yes. Defense is terrible. And also, Geno, he has to, when you're given the keys, when you're given the opportunity, you still have to close the game. That's your job as the quarterback.
Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's one of those things where there's so many factors going into it. And I know because you are someone who really isn't a big Geno Smith fan, you kind of rife on Geno more and stuff like that. When I'm trying to look at the whole overall picture and see what's really like kind of what caused more of it. Because I think overall in that game, Geno had one of his best fantasy nights in the season. And then on top of that, I would say that like what really caused it was the penalties and the defense. And the bigger problem was Woolen. So if I had to, like, I'm just saying that's where I see, because like I'm looking at fantasy wise, I think our defense might have actually like had negative points today.
I mean, we could double check and see if that is for sure.
Yeah, because I think I saw that on my team. They might have had negative points.
I'll take a look and see how bad it was. Maybe 0. I'm gonna guess 0. What's your guess?
I think it's like -2, but it's -2.
You got -2, huh?
Yeah.
Just like Dallas's defense got -3.
Yeah. Look at this. Geno Smith had 29.8 points, his best fantasy night of the whole season.
How many fantasy points did he score?
29.8.
29.8, huh? But the
Best
thing, like
thing
I
of the
said,
night.
like you can do well in your first 3 quarters of the game, and it's not like Geno Smith had a great second half either. But you got to finish the game when it matters the most. That's what clutch quarterbacks do, and Geno is not a clutch quarterback. Like, I know that you say that, well, he won against the Commanders. The Commanders don't have a defense. Well, he won against the Browns, but the Browns quarterback thing is a problem so much that they got lucky with that interception, and it was in that red zone. So you couldn't screw that up.
Well, so here's the thing is, if a player is really bad or isn't doing great, they would lose most of their games. The Seahawks are putting enough pieces together to win half their games about both seasons. So you can't say our team's horrible, but you can't say our team's great. We're mediocre. I would call our team mediocre. That's how I look at it.
But do you at least agree on this? As much as defense is terrible, and here's the thing, like, I know there's some Seahawks fans out there that are already harping on me going, well, you can't just put everything. The defense is terrible. But I've been saying throughout that the defense is absolutely terrible, but I can still say Geno did not finish those games. He did not finish it. Yeah. And no, Matt Hasselbeck is the better quarterback. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hasselbeck is better than Geno. And the thing about Geno is Geno has had some games where he hasn't finished. He hasn't completed the job he needs to do. It's like he can complete games against teams that are not great. That is true, or teams that are mediocre. So, like, yes, it's like some of the games he won big last year against teams weren't as good as what people thought they were. Like, look at the Chargers this year. The Chargers are horrible this year, are not great this year, and we beat them last year. You know, it's like the one good team we beat every year that's been steadily good that people thought wasn't great was the actual Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions are a good team. We beat them twice in a row, 2 years in a row. So it's like decent or bad teams. Yes, we're getting better at beating those teams. It's the good teams that we're struggling against because we don't know how to finish games. And the problem is that our team causes, like you said, too many penalties. It causes too many. Our defense doesn't hold up well enough, and our quarterback is not finishing the games. So like that. It's like, but the thing about it is that some of those games, could you blame it on the kicker? Because look at that game. If our kicker would have made the extra kick, we would only have been down by one field. We would only be down by less points. So they missed a kick. The game was at the Rams game. Our kicker missed a big kick. So like, there's so many other problems that we have. Is it time to scrap our kicker? Is it time to scrap part of our defense? Is it time to get a new defensive coordinator? I think we might.
I was never a fan of Jason Myers to begin with. I think like we could have gotten Dustin Hopkins over Jason Myers, but the Browns, they snatched him up.
Yeah. But
the thing is, like, here's the thing. Yeah. As much as my Seahawks criticizers out there, the fans, here's my message to you. So do you really want me to pull a 180 and say, like, oh, Geno Smith is an amazing quarterback? He's great. Offensive line's terrible. Defense, is that what you want me to do? Or would you rather be myself? I'd rather be myself. I'm sorry. I cannot tell a lie. I'd rather be honest and say that Geno just has to figure out a way. He has to figure it out on how to play with the odds stacked against him. So, and I'm not being a hater. I'm just constructively criticizing that Geno still has to complete it, because if Aaron Rodgers was in that position, if Tom Brady was in that position, if Drew Brees was in that position, would we be making those excuses? No, they would be putting it all on those guys. Just like the 2007 Patriots, they had an average defense at best, but who did they blame it on? They blamed it on Tom Brady for not completing the final drive with 30 seconds to go. They put all of that on Brady. They did not put it on the lackluster defense that got scuffed up against Eli Manning.
It's good that you are being yourself. It's always good when people are themselves and being themselves. I think my thing is that I look at it a little bit different. Like, I'm not saying Geno is a great quarterback. I like Geno, but the thing about Geno is that I know Geno could do better and could be better. And I know, like, I don't say he's as bad as what you say it is, because based on the numbers I see and what he's done in his success, I look at it as him as a mediocre quarterback. I don't consider him horrible. So
you're just proving my point. But you proved my point on mediocrity. But
do we have enough pieces against? I think like with all our mediocrity on our team, we're good enough to make the playoffs every year because the NFC is not the greatest right now.
But we can't defend on that. Like us fans, we don't want just playoffs. Yeah. We want the Super Bowl. And ever since that Super Bowl 49 incident, I've wanted a Super Bowl the next day. Yeah. But it's not happened, and it's almost been 10 years. But I just don't think that Geno is the guy to take them to the Super Bowl. I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, which is why I think once the draft is arriving, you've got to look at least someone that will sit, at least throughout the rookie season of his, learn from things, maybe learn from Geno. Hey, I'm saying at least Geno can teach someone a thing or two. But at this point, at some time, we're going to have to move on from him. Well, on top of trying to fix this defense, which doesn't seem to be fixed. And Pete Carroll also, and I'm switching gears on this because I don't want to just be all about Geno, but Pete Carroll's also going to find the defensive coordinator, because obviously the defensive coordinator is not working. And yes, there's maybe a personnel problem, but we got a lot of talent on this team. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't think we have the guys we don't have the coach to make it the right scheme. Like, who is our defensive coordinator? I forgot his name already. Yeah, that's how forgettable he is.
Yeah. Well, so the defensive coordinator. So the whole thing with our team right now is that everyone knew Geno was I always knew Geno was a temporary fix. He was a temporary person you plop in, you see if he does well, and then you try to find I think what the thing is I think Pete Carroll right now is banking too much on Drew Lock being the next guy up in this whole situation as being the guy for the future. Realizing that, okay, he had one okay drive when he played that 2 minutes in that one game, and then the other game he played, he just flubbed out the place. So I think this offseason, they might actually try to draft a decent quarterback. They don't need a good draft.
I never liked Drew Lock.
Look at Brock Purdy. He was the last pick of the draft. A lot of good quarterbacks. Look at Russell, was like a third-round pick. So you don't need the first-round pick to find a good quarterback. That's true. So being mediocre, us being mediocre, can still find a good quarterback and plop someone in maybe, like, say, a year from now, and while we're rolling.
But until then, don't expect a Super Bowl run out of the Seahawks this season, which is really sad, because at the beginning of the season, everyone was expecting at least NFC Championship, but now we'll be lucky just to even make the playoffs.
Well, we already know we're going to be better than Arizona potentially. We're going to have a better record. So the only team we're worried about is like if the Rams overtake us this year and we become the third best team in our division.
Which would be really sad, but it is still possible because at least Rams have the quarterback. But I think we're almost running out of time. But bottom line, let's do a back and forth thing on things to blame for the Seahawks losing. I'll go first. Obviously, Geno Smith.
The defense.
Jason Myers.
Penalties.
Injuries.
Was it coaching?
I think that's what we've got.
Yeah.
And we can't really say ref ball or something like that. It's just when the Seahawks, the way they do their penalties, like every time you see the replay, they absolutely did deserve those penalties. Like some of those were like, you shouldn't have done something like that. The Bobby Wagner one was the only one I was like, okay, there's not really much he could have really done because he was already in the forward progress. But there are several where he should, those penalties were like easily preventable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think we're out of time right now, but I think that's all we really got to say. Now, let's go to the positive things. Positive things, DK Metcalf.
Geno Smith.
Man, what do I got? That's how I feel about this game. Charbonnet, at least before he got hurt.
Yep, that was a good one. It was like I'm trying to think of other good things that happened to us. It was like, well, we were lucky that the other team got a lot of penalties.
Yeah, we were lucky. I mean, Dallas really should have not won this game, but when you had two pretty decent opportunities to win the game, it still didn't happen.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, even with, and I know we're just going off, but even with a bad offensive line, could have done some screen passes too. It's not like you have to like throw downfield with a bad O-line every time. You can always just scheme your way out of it. There's always screen passes you can do. You can always do short passes or at least have Geno run for himself. But none of those really happen. But those are my thoughts on this game, and I think we're going to end this portion of the post-game show.
Okay.
And thank you very much for watching this post-game show. And go Hawks.
And hashtag don't drink.
And don't quit your day job.
Yes.
So
hashtag don't smoke.
Yeah, don't smoke.